$20? My brother Ryan laughed so hard he had to grab the edge of the conference table. No way, he choked out. No freaking way. The lawyer didn't look up from the paperwork. He just adjusted his glasses and kept reading like he wasn't sitting in a room full of grown adults acting like middle school bullies. To my grandson, Ethan Mercer, he said calmly, I leave the sum of $20. That did it. My sister Claire covered her mouth, but she was laughing too. My dad leaned back in his leather chair wearing that familiar expression I'd spent my whole life trying not to notice. That look. See? I told you so look. The room smelled like polished wood, expensive coffee, and quiet cruelty. I sat at the far end of the table and stared at the will lying in front of me. $20. That was it. After everything. After 5 years of hospital visits, 5 years of medication runs, grocery deliveries, doctor appointments, late-night phone calls because Grandpa couldn't remember how to work the TV remote or thought it was 1998 again. $20. Ryan wiped tears from his eyes. Man, Grandpa really said, here's gas money, kid. More laughter. Nobody even tried hiding it. Not my aunt. Not my mother. Not even Claire, who usually at least pretended to feel bad afterward. The attorney finally looked up. His name was Howard Bennett. Late 60s. Silver hair. Calm eyes. He'd handled my grandfather's legal work for decades. And right now, he looked uncomfortable. Not confused. Not surprised. Uncomfortable. Like there was a punchline nobody else in the room understood yet. There is one additional item, Howard said. He reached beside his folder and picked up a small cream-colored envelope. Your grandfather requested this be delivered directly to Ethan. Ryan snorted. Oh, good. Maybe there's another $10 in there. The envelope slid across the polished table and stopped in front of me. It felt thin, light, almost empty. My name was written across the front in my grandfather's handwriting. Sharp, precise, perfectly centered. Even after his hands started shaking, his handwriting had stayed neat. Because that was Grandpa, order mattered. Numbers mattered. Details mattered. Open it, Ryan said. I didn't move. Come on, don't be shy. My father folded his hands. Go ahead, Ethan. Same tone he used when somebody asked a kid to perform a trick. I picked up the envelope slowly. For a second, I almost opened it. But something stopped me. Maybe pride, maybe instinct. Maybe the simple fact that I didn't want to give them another reason to laugh. I slipped the envelope into my jacket pocket and stood up. I'm good. Ryan blinked. That's it? Yep. I looked at the lawyer. Thank you, Mr. Bennett. Then I walked out. Behind me, the laughter started again. Rain hit the windshield in soft gray waves as I sat in my car inside the underground parking garage. I didn't start the engine. Didn't check my phone. Didn't move. I just sat there listening to the tick, tick, tick of cooling metal beneath the hood. $20. The irony almost made me laugh. My grandfather hadn't been rich. At least, nobody thought he was. He'd been an accountant. 38 years running a tiny tax office in Connecticut. No flashy vacations. No luxury cars. No country club nonsense. He wore the same old wristwatch for 20 years and thought buying premium cable was financially irresponsible. My family called him cheap, boring, obsessed with spreadsheets. I called him Grandpa. The only person in my family who ever looked at me and didn't seem vaguely disappointed by what he saw. I finally pulled the envelope from my pocket. The paper crackled softly. Inside was exactly what everybody expected. A single $20 bill. I stared at it for a long moment. That familiar green paper. Andrew Jackson. Nothing special. Nothing magical. Just $20. I almost laughed. Then I turned it over and stopped breathing. The serial number had been circled. Not casually. Not absent-mindedly. Thick black ink. Multiple passes. Deliberate. Impossible to miss. My fingers tightened around the bill. Grandpa had been an accountant for 43 years. Numbers weren't random to him. Numbers were language, maps, clues, stories. When I was 12, struggling through algebra homework, he'd sat beside me for 3 straight hours, teaching me how to spot patterns. Most people panic when they see numbers, he told me. They think numbers are cold. He tapped the worksheet. They're not cold, they're honest. I looked at the circled digits again. 8 numbers, 2 letters. My pulse started climbing. No, This meant something. It had to. My name is Ethan Mercer. I'm 34 years old. I work as a forensic accountant for a mid-sized financial consulting firm outside Hartford. Exciting, right? That's what my brother always says. Usually followed by a joke about calculators. Ryan builds luxury condos. Or, technically, Ryan starts projects financed by my father and calls himself a developer. My sister Claire is an interior designer who somehow charges wealthy people $40,000 to recommend beige furniture. My family worships confidence, charm, big personalities, aggressive ambition. I inherited none of that. I inherited spreadsheets, caution, pattern recognition, and apparently my grandfather's inability to tolerate financial nonsense. Growing up, that made me the odd one out. Ryan was the athlete. Claire was the social star. I was the quiet kid sitting beside Grandpa learning how to read ledgers for fun. Yeah, I know. Super cool childhood. But I loved it. His office smelled like coffee, paper, and printer toner. Stacks of files everywhere. Calculator tape hanging off the desk. He'd let me organize receipts while he worked. Sometimes he'd hand me financial statements like puzzle books. Find the mistake. I always found one. Eventually. And every single time. He'd smile like I'd solved world hunger. "You've got the eye," he used to say. The eye can't be taught. Nobody else in the family understood that. But Grandpa did. Always. The last few years had been rough. Cancer, recovery, complications, memory problems, good days, bad days, then dementia, slow, cruel, piece by piece. Still, every Sunday I drove out to his house, 45 minutes each way. Tea, medication sorting, baseball reruns, stories I'd heard 20 times. I never minded. Not once. Near the end, during one of his clearer afternoons, he'd looked at me from his recliner and said something strange. "You're the only one who pays attention." I smiled. Pretty low bar. "No," he shook his head slowly. "You actually see things." I thought he meant my job, or numbers, or his medication schedule. Now, while sitting alone in that parking garage, I wasn't so sure. I looked down at the bill again. The serial number, the thick black circle. Something tugged at my memory. Not the numbers themselves. The format, the way they were grouped. Where had I seen? My eyes widened. No freaking way. I grabbed my phone. Opened my notes app. Typed the sequence. Ran through possibilities, account number, security code, safe combination. My heart started pounding harder. There was one place to check. One person who might know. 40 minutes later, I pushed through the glass doors of Franklin Community Bank. The branch was almost empty. Muted lighting, soft instrumental jazz, corporate beige everything. Patricia Lane looked up from behind her office desk. Branch manager, mid-50s, sharp suit, sharp mind. She'd handled my grandfather's banking for years. Her expression softened when she saw me. "Ethan!" She stood. "I'm so sorry about Walter." "Thanks." I hesitated. This was gonna sound insane. "I need to ask you something weird." Her eyebrows lifted. "That usually means paperwork." I pulled the $20 bill from my wallet, placed it on her desk. She studied the circled serial number. Confusion crossed her face. Then concentration. "What exactly am I looking at?" "I think my grandfather left me a code." Silence. Patricia looked at me for a long second. Then back at the bill. Her expression changed. Subtle, but unmistakable. Recognition. My stomach dropped. "You know what this is?" She didn't answer immediately. Instead, she stood up. "Wait here." She disappeared through a secure hallway door. 1 minute passed, then 3, then 7. My knee bounced uncontrollably beneath the chair. Finally, the door opened. Patricia stepped back into the office, and she looked pale. Actually pale. "Ethan," she said quietly, "I need you to come with me." My heartbeat stumbled. "What's going on?" She swallowed. "Your grandfather opened something here in 1989. We walked through a locked corridor, past employee-only doors, down a narrow staircase. Cold air wrapped around us, vault level. My pulse thundered in my ears. Patricia stopped in front of a steel wall lined with safety deposit boxes. Rows and rows of metal doors. Silent, immovable. She turned toward me slowly. "Your grandfather left detailed instructions." My mouth went dry. "What instructions?" She held up the $20 bill. "The serial number?" A pause. "It's the access verification." The room suddenly felt smaller. What? Patricia nodded toward one oversized deposit box built into the lower wall. He prepaid the lease for decades. My brain struggled to catch up. He told us, she said quietly, that one day someone would walk in carrying this exact bill. Silence pressed against my chest. Someone who understood how he thought. I stared at the metal box, unable to speak. Patricia inserted a key. According to the agreement, click. The contents legally belong to the individual who presents the code. My pulse hammered so loudly I could barely hear her. The lock released. Patricia slid the heavy box halfway out, then stepped back. I'll give you privacy. She walked toward the door, stopped, looked back once. Your grandfather trusted you very much. Then she left. The vault door closed behind her, and I stood alone in the cold underground room, staring at the box my grandfather had hidden from everyone for almost 40 years. Slowly, I lifted the lid and immediately knew my family had been wrong about him, wrong about everything.